Hey, welcome back everyone. Today I have with me this German Sport Guns manufactured StG-44 lookalike chambered in 22 rimfire. This is a semi-automatic closed bolt reproduction of the well-known German Sturmgewehr 1944 or StG or MP4044 used in World War II by the German military, and is a neat way to be able to own one without paying thousands of dollars for an actual StG-44. These were actually made in Germany since at least 2012 or so by a company called German Sport Guns and imported by American Tactical Imports. They also make a reproduction of the MP40 pistol in 9mm and 22. You know, someday I would love to own the original, or at least an affordable reproduction of the StG-44 in the original 7.92 Kurz round, but alas, here we are. For context, the StG-44 was more or less the first mass-produced assault rifle chambered in an intermediate cartridge adopted by any military. Kind of that sweet spot between submachine guns that use pistol cartridges and long rifles that use large caliber cartridges, so that's why it's called an intermediate cartridge. Sturmgewehr roughly translates into storm rifle or assault rifle. That starts this whole lineage of calling rifles chambered in intermediate cartridges with detachable magazines, pistol grips, and kind of overall similar cosmetic features, assault rifles. As an aside, there's a lot of nuance about whether this was truly the first assault weapon, if the Russian Fedorov Automat deserves that title, but regardless, it was the first mass-produced assault weapon officially adopted that could be created in large numbers in a short period of time and issued to a large number of troops. So, you know, at the beginning of World War II, the M1 Garand, the Gewehr 43, or I guess the Gewehr 41, the SVT 40, existed as semi-automatic battle rifles to replace bolt-action rifles, which did give you a firepower advantage, and these were all still chambered in large calibers. M1 Garand 30-06, Gewehr 43, 8mm. Now, semi-automatics had clear advantages over bolt-action rifles in terms of firepower. You can get a lot more rounds off per second than you could with bolt-action rifles. As combat distances began to shrink and fighting was happening in closer proximity, demand grew for an all-purpose rifle that could easily be mass-produced, was lighter, could carry more ammo, and could achieve more firepower without compromising general accuracy. So Germany began experimenting with different intermediate designs from 1941, realizing battle rifles were too expensive to produce in their position and likely not the future of what military armaments needed. Several of these new prototypes were submitted by Walter and Heinel in 1942, and then progress continued when German senior leadership, it was said, specifically Hitler, halted the intermediate cartridge program in order to focus resources on other weapons development, specifically better submachine guns. The Armaments Office kept the program going by designating the new weapon MP43, so it sounded like a submachine gun variant. German leadership basically found out about the secrecy of the program, or the overall continuation of the intermediate cartridge program, and decided to actually give it some battlefield testing. And after further evaluation and some pretty positive results, the then MP43 was put into production and was given to various units on the Eastern Front by October of 1943. By 1944, it's also said that Hitler wanted the gun redesignated as the Sturmgewehr Model 1944 for propaganda reasons, meaning storm or assault rifle. You know, soldiers who were issued the newly designated StG-44s had nothing short of positive things to say about them. And they did exactly what they were intended to do very well, give the average soldier more firepower while still giving them the reach beyond what a submachine gun could. However, at the war's end, only about 500,000 of them were made, and it can be said that they didn't really have an impact on the war's timeline at all. You know, this was really the concern from the beginning with this program, is logistics, and what is the point of making something new if it's not going to reach troops en masse? Did Germany squander a bunch of scarce resources on research and development projects that were too late to win the war? In most cases, absolutely. B-2 rockets are a great example of this. But this is one of those projects that was actually beneficial to troops while it lasted, or at least I would say semi-successful, because they yielded results that were actually positive. They created something that would have been useful if the war had lasted any longer. But, you know, we kind of get the benefit of seeing the past, and those people can only guess what would happen. But regardless, it's an interesting piece of firearms history. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this particular rifle from GSG. You know, it's obviously a cosmetic clone of the original StG-44, which would cost you probably upwards of $50,000, if not more today. Let's take a look at Gunbroker. GSG has been selling these for a pretty long time now. They used to retail at about $600, I think, with the Pine box back in 2012, but the price has come down considerably to $300 to $400 from what I understand. The box itself is pretty nice. It kind of keeps everything together and has a German look-alike eagle on the top. It comes with a manual, a single 25-round magazine, and then you can fit the broken down rifle inside, kind of neatly packaged. The box itself was said to be handcrafted by Amish builders in New York. Kind of funny to think about the Amish making ammo crates for replica World War II German rifles, but they are well constructed. I've had this one for a long time. Again, I think I bought this in 2014, but I haven't taken it out recently and thought I'd give it a go. Obviously, it's a nice looking rifle. It's the same overall length and dimensions as the original StG-44, 37 inches. In terms of weight, with an unloaded magazine, it's just under 10 pounds, which is just shy of a few ounces of what the original StG-44 weighs unloaded. So you do get a pretty good feel for what one actually feels like, even though it's a little bit awkward shooting 22s out of it for such a heavy gun. But, you know, they were building this to feel as much like the real one as possible. You know, first off, it's got this really nice reproduction buttstock, and then, of course, hand grips here. And then, you know, all the cosmetic features are pretty much right on this rifle. It's right on the money. It has the, of course, the GSG StG-44 symbol, and then it's got the American Tactical symbol under here, which, you know, isn't historical, but it's not something I really care about. They've got to brand their rifle. And then it has Schmeiser right here, which is the name of the guy who actually designed this rifle, Hugo Schmeiser. And then, you know, you've got your magazine release button here, and I'll just demonstrate that real quick. Pretty simple magazine release. The magazine holds up to 25 rounds as indicated by these numbers here. Well, it says 24, but it actually can hold up to 25 rounds. And then you've got this thumb piece here to allow you to move the follower down right to the bottom. And then, you know, sometimes if you move it down too much while you're loading, the bullets can sometimes get stuck sideways inside of here. This has happened numerous times to me where I'll be loading and I'll push the follower down a little too much. The, you know, heavier side of the bullet will go down in there, and you've got to kind of shake it out or use a prick to move it out, turn it upside down and shake it out. So that is one annoying thing, but this is actually a pretty durable polymer constructed magazine. Taking a look at the body real quick, we've got the selector switch between safe and fire, just like the original StG-44. And then an interesting cosmetic feature on here that doesn't really work, but on the real StG-44, you could toggle between safe and semi-automatic fire by clicking this button. Obviously, this is a visual representation because on the commercial one, this is semi-automatic only, but it's a neat feature that they included to make it look as real and authentic as possible. Flipping it over to the opposite side, I just want to give you guys another visual representation of what this would have looked like. The only notable thing here is you can actually flip up the dust cover, just like the real one. It's spring-loaded here, and then when you actually fire this, the dust cover will open up. Taking a look at the barrel and the muzzle of this rifle, I first want to point out that this is one solid piece. Typically on German submachine guns and the StG-44s, this would have been threaded, so you could actually remove this to put accessories such as grenade launchers on the front. This is just one cast piece, so you can't actually remove that for any reason. And then you also look at the handguard, which is pretty much identical to the original StG-44s. It's all metal. Now, if these got hot, your hands, which you were supposed to grip this by the handguard and not the magazine, this would get very hot. Luckily, with these StG-44s, 22s just don't exert that much energy, so I actually haven't noticed this being an issue whatsoever, but I can certainly imagine on the original StG-44s, if you're putting this through a lot of use, this handguard would get hot very quickly. This pointy thing right here is actually the gas plug, and then this also doubles as a stacking rod. Because there's no gas system in the GSG clone, this is just a chunk of non-movable metal. On the real one, you could unscrew this and, of course, clean the gas port, but that is not an option with this. Surprise, there's no gas system, it's just an empty tube, but it does look pretty good, and again, they paid a lot of attention to the detail to make it look authentic. taking a quick look at the sights right here, the original StG-44 would have had a graduated sight from 100 to 800 meters, but because this is a 22, it doesn't have those distances. This is a reproduction, of course, so it allows you to do something that the original StG-44 doesn't allow you to do, and that is adjust for windage. As you can see here, you can just pull out this knob and move left and right. Of course, the slider, other than the distances, is authentic to the real one. On the buttstock here, if you look, you actually have this opening right here, which is, again, not surprisingly, authentic to the original StG-44. It's where you can kind of keep your oil and cleaning kit. It would be kind of in a tube style. And the buttstock is, fairly simple. It's actually pretty comfortable for not having a real butt plate. At least shooting 22, you don't really feel any recoil at all because of how heavy this gun is. I can't speak for what it would be, what it would feel like to shoot the original 7.92 Kurs, but anyway, it's a nicely made reproduction. For disassembly, it's basically the same as the original StG-44. There's a little takedown pin that I already removed, and it comes out fairly easily. And then we'll remove the buttstock here. It comes out. It's pretty spring-loaded here, so you just have to make sure that you hold this when you pull the lower receiver out. There's a lot of tension built up in there, but this comes out exactly the same way that an StG-44 would. And then, right here, you've got the receiver end cap with the spring. And then you've just got this, this holding block in place, and then you've got the entire breech block just comes out when you put it at an angle very nicely here. And for reassembly, it's quite easy. You'll just go ahead and put the breech block back in, slide that in, and then you've got your main spring here. And then we'll just take this block holder, put that in there. And then, of course, we've got this end cap, which we'll just slide in here. And then you've got your whole mechanism together. Again, there's a lot of spring tension built up in here, so you'll just go ahead and snap that in place. Put your buttstock in, and then you'll go ahead and put your push pin in here, and you're all good to go, and that's how you reassemble it. So I actually checked on American Tactical Imports website, and they've actually discontinued making these 22 StG-44s, but they are still available online if you want to purchase them, especially on Gunbroker. Overall, this is a pretty decent firearm. At first, it's a little awkward since it's in 22 caliber and it's such a heavy gun, but with a nice trigger pull of 6 pounds, it runs really well, and I actually enjoy shooting this. It does jam from time to time. In this particular video, I was using 40 grain Gecko ammo made specifically for semi-autos, which is actually German-made ammunition, but I think maybe it jams once out of every 50 rounds or only a couple times while I'm at the range. I think it might be also an issue with the magazine or just the ammunition, but overall I really haven't experienced that many technical issues with them. I know some users have experienced issues where they'll put the magazine in, and when they let the bolt release go, it won't close, although I have personally not experienced this with my particular firearm, but I know many of you have. Overall, it's a really well-constructed firearm, and it looks really awesome. The reason I got it was because I always thought they looked super cool and sleek in movies and World War II games. It was just a really fun gun to operate. And they are like the OG assault weapon. They honestly almost look like space rifles or something like that. But I'm glad I got one of these while it's, and while it's not in the original, 7.92 Kurs round, it's still something that's honestly cheap to shoot and take out to the range. At that price, you really can't beat, what you're getting. And while I wish we could have an StG-44 reproduction chambered in 223, 5.56, the original 7.92 Kurs round, or some other intermediate cartridge, kind of seems like all the startup companies that are building these kind of drop their promises, if you will, and they kind of fell through with their plans. But this is a fun rifle. It's a solidly built gun, and I'm not really complaining. It's cheap to shoot, and you can easily go out to the range and enjoy it. So anyway, Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you've handled one of these GSG StG-44s in the past, let me know in the comment section, and we'll see you later.